On this Wednesday night,
I said, Dad, I love you and you've been a wonderful father. And the last words he would ever say on earth were, I love you too.
the 43rd U.S. president says farewell to the 41st, son to father. Plus, the Canadian statesman who knew George Herbert Walker Bush best.
You can retrieve like half of it, as opposed to do nothing.
Environment Canada's weather balloons gather crucial info for countries around the world, but they come with a built-in environmental cost here at home.
Let's see what we can see. Oh, it just drops away.
And we'll get you right up close as scientists study British Columbia's volcanoes. Why they say it's not just an academic exercise. This is The Nut. The United States mourned the passing of a president today, a state funeral remembering the life and legacy of the 41st occupant of the Oval Office. This day was about George Herbert Walker Bush. But eyes couldn't help straying to the other presidents and their wives sitting in the front row as eulogies echoed through the cathedral and across the airwaves.
He put college on hold and became a Navy fighter pilot as World War II broke out.
America's last great soldier statesman. His life code, tell the truth, don't blame people.
He often said, when the really tough choices come, it's the country, not me.
No occupant of the Oval Office was more courageous, more principled, and more honorable than George Herbert Walker Bush.
As Keith Bogue explains, it was a rare and strange sight. Donald Trump next to a political establishment he has mocked and accused, and to whom he will inevitably be compared.
Guests in the former president's and first lady's pew did their best to manage the historic awkwardness of the moment. Donald Trump shook hands with the man whose American birth and religious belief he spread lies about, and with the former First Lady who says she'll never forgive Trump because those same lies put her children's lives at risk. Trump did not shake hands with the former president and First Lady, whom he has labeled criminals. At perhaps a more comfortable distance sat other victims of Trump's vituperation, the family of the late President George H.W. Bush, including the son Trump ridiculed as low-energy Jeb.
George Bush was a man of high accomplishment, and he also had a delightful sense of humor.
Former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney had a close friendship with President Bush and with President Ronald Reagan, at whose funeral he spoke in 2004. Their time in office overlapped with each other's and with some historic moments in bilateral and international relations. Mulroney spoke about their work on NAFTA, acid rain, and the reunification of Germany. Bush, he said, defined the highest quality of a president.
It's called leadership. Leadership. And let me tell you that when George Bush was president of the United States of America, every single head of government in the world knew that they were dealing with a gentleman, a genuine leader, one who was distinguished, resolute, and brave.
Not all of the 41st president's life will be remembered that way. But at this moment, the last word belonged to his oldest son, the 43rd president, who spoke of a reunion of his father, mother, and sister Robin, who died in childhood.
The best father a son or daughter could have. And in our grief, let us smile knowing that Dad is hugging Robin and holding Mom's hand again.
And then one final personal farewell. Keith Bogue, CBC News, Washington.
Now, Donald Trump did not speak at the funeral, and while that might not be a surprise, given what Keith just mentioned, it does go against the custom of recent years. Sitting presidents have spoken at the past 3 presidential funerals. Clinton spoke for Nixon in 1994. George W. Bush spoke at the funerals for Ronald Reagan and Gerald Ford. In addressing today's omission, Jeb Bush avoided any mention of Trump's conduct.
It's because we have a unique circumstance here. My brother was president, you know.
Trump, for his part, praised the late Bush in a statement over the weekend, saying he set the bar higher.
Turning now to Friday's highly anticipated meeting between the Prime Minister and the Premiers, where one of the big questions is just what are they going to talk about?
I look forward to talking about anything the Premiers want to talk about. We're looking forward to a broad range of discussions on whatever it is that they have as priorities, including oil. Of course, natural resources are an essential part of our economy. We're going to be talking about that as well.
But some of the premiers are still unhappy about the agenda, and they're expecting some tense and difficult moments before the meetings even start. David Cochran joins us from our Parliamentary Bureau this evening. And David, we heard the Prime Minister mention oil. Oil is also the reason why the premiers are upset.
Yeah, that's right. They want to talk about oil, and they want to talk about it in a big way at these meetings. In fact, they want a dedicated section of the agenda for the First Minister's meeting set aside to discuss solely the oil crisis that's hitting Canada's oil patch right now. That isn't on the agenda. That upsets the premiers as they feel this is the #1 challenge in the Canadian economy right now. They've been pushing Ottawa all week to get it changed, to get it on the agenda with no luck. And what Manitoba Premier Brian Pallister said today when he spoke with Vashi Kapelos of Power and Politics is that if Ottawa won't put a segment of this on the agenda, the premiers will force it onto the agenda.
Well, I can guarantee you one thing, if the agenda doesn't change, the premiers will change the agenda during the meeting itself because there are concerns, obviously evident in our oil-producing regions of the country that impact on every other province.
But this might be confusing, David, for some people. I mean, the Prime Minister said that he is willing to talk about oil. So what is it about that answer that doesn't satisfy the premiers?
Yeah, the Premier and federal officials say they're willing to talk about oil, but only in part of a larger scheduled conversation they've got set aside on issues on trade and competitiveness, no dedicated section. And the problem there, from the province's perspective, is that will shortchange what they consider to be one of the biggest issues in the Canadian economy. The other factor at play here, Ian, is just the changing dynamic at federal-provincial relations. More and more Conservative premiers getting elected in more and more provincial legislatures. Some of them, like Ontario Premier Doug Ford, has said they want to defeat Justin Trudeau. So this is going to be a significant dynamic over the next year leading up to the federal election, and all of that is going to be on display in Montreal when they meet, making this, Ian, most likely the most difficult First Minister's meeting Justin Trudeau has had since becoming Prime Minister.
All right, David, thank you.
You're welcome.
The environment may well generate another difficult discussion in Friday's meeting, and the federal government's carbon pricing plan could be part of it. So many of the newly elected Conservative premiers that David just talked about are against a carbon tax. But in British Columbia, it's been hailed as a success. And today, the province unveiled an even more aggressive climate plan.
We want to make shifts in our homes, shifts in our vehicles, shifts in our industry to move away from burning fossil fuels and towards a cleaner, greener approach.
The plan will affect every part of the British Columbia economy in an effort to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030. As Greg Rasmussen explains, it includes tax breaks aimed at encouraging individuals and industries to change.
Is this actually a green technology we're looking at?
Yes, absolutely. We get a 20% reduction in CO2 emissions.
BC's new plan to cut emissions adds up to dollar signs for this Vancouver company. Their technology already runs tens of thousands of trucks and buses on natural gas rather than diesel.
That engine has really taken that industry, and now about half of all of the garbage trucks that are sold in North America use natural gas, and in many, many cases it's renewable natural gas from the landfills.
That kind of change, good for the environment and the economy, is central to BC's plan. Arthur says governments around the world are forcing companies to cut CO2 levels.
This is creating a massive requirement to change the technologies we use in transportation, and will lead us to much lower emissions, much cleaner future.
Today's plan will also force builders to construct homes that use next to no energy by the year 2032. And drivers will eventually only be allowed to buy zero-emission vehicles.
This is an environment plan, it's a climate plan, but it's also an economic strategy for British Columbia going forward.
While it's cutting CO2 in some areas, BC is still making room for a huge expansion of natural gas exports, which will generate millions of tons of new emissions. In addition, 25% of the reductions are to come from sources that still haven't been identified. Despite those concerns, BC's leading environmental groups are largely on side.
Historically, governments have been abysmal at filling their promises on climate change, and I think that's what's really important about this plan is that it has accountability measures.
Today's plan also makes it clear who will lose: people who drive large gas-guzzling vehicles and those living in older, less energy-efficient homes. Other provinces will now be watching this BC experiment very closely to see whether it's possible to create a low-carbon economy without a high amount of pain. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Environment Canada has a lot of green initiatives as well, but what you see here isn't one of them. Thousands of weather balloons go up every year, and then they come down carrying potentially toxic e-waste. As Salima Shivji tells us, almost none of it is ever recovered.
At this weather station in the far north, an important daily task.
Don't get hung up. 1 science.
That weather balloon will keep climbing and travel far into the upper atmosphere, carrying with it what's called a radiosonde. Its sensors ready to capture vital weather data. A snapshot of the atmosphere that's then shared with other countries to predict severe weather patterns.
When Hurricane Florence was coming up the U.S. coast, they actually called us and asked us to do some extra soundings on the East Coast to help with the forecasting of where Florence was going to turn.
The balloon prep is meticulous, down to a science. It has to be. It's done at more than 30 sites across Canada, twice a day, all year round. But the problem is the radiosondes are plastic and their circuit boards battery powered. After their work is done, they can land anywhere and just sit there. More than 22,000 dumps of e-waste a year, and Environment Canada doesn't try to retrieve them. Not great for a department focused on reducing pollution, not creating it.
This is where that information is crucial. And you don't.
This professor who studies ways to recycle e-waste says more could be done. Other countries like France and the United States try to recover their weather devices.
Maybe even if we can retrieve like half of it, will be a success, as opposed to do nothing.
As for Environment Canada, it says it's a trade-off, crucial data for a small amount of e-waste. It wants to pick up the devices, but there's a big problem. Canada is huge.
And it's just very costly. We would be renting helicopters or, taking snowmobiles out in the middle of nowhere.
For now, the devices only have a phone number for you to call if you find one. The department says that phone rarely rings. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
Turning now to the latest on Montreal boxer Adonis Stevenson. He remains in stable but critical condition in hospital with a severe brain injury after suffering a knockout loss on Saturday.
We've passed the critical phase, which we hope will be passed at the end of the week. Then we will decrease the amount of sedation and drugs that we give him to keep him under controlled sedation.
The 41-year-old Stevenson went down hard in a tough match against a much younger opponent, taking several punches to the head. But even with his long history in the ring, doctors didn't seem to find a history of brain trauma.
He's a healthy man, and his brain wasn't. We didn't suspect any damage to his brain prior to this injury.
That said, Stevenson's doctor cautioned it's simply too early to make a long-term prognosis. Now, in his aggressive combat sport, boxing, of course, comes with risks, but are some of those dangers avoidable? We sent Nick Purdon out to explore what makes boxing so appealing for some and what can be done to make it a little safer.
Sully's Boxing Gym in Toronto. For the last 26 years, former Canadian heavyweight champion Tony Morrison has been training fighters here.
What's boxing to you?
Excitement, the fighting, the fun, traveling, beating people up in the ring, man. See, that's the only sport you can beat somebody up and get it every day. One, turn.
Morrison fought professionally for 8 years. He knocked out the legendary Leon Spinks in a match that lasted less than a minute.
There you go. It is a brutal sport. You don't go in the ring to kill people, but at the same time, that guy's trying to kill you. As a professional boxer, that's your money.
Does boxing need to change to get safer, you think?
I don't know if you can change boxing. There's so much money in the market right now, right? Maybe one change they can do is reduce the rounds for the pro fighters to 10 rounds. Go.
The other thing Morrison stresses about safety is that boxers have to be in top shape. That's why Joey Marquezines comes to Sully's.
Would you change it?
For the safety of people, yes, but at the same time, as a boxer, you know what you're getting into, you know the outcomes, and the main thing is to protect yourself and try to get out of the way, but it is part of the sport, getting knocked out.
while Marquezinus admits that she's not sure she's ready to fight. 18-year-old Ray Tuzzi can't wait.
Would you want to change it?
Okay, so say you say, okay, let's make the gloves more padded, wear more headgear. No matter what you do, at the end of the day, it's punching another human being to the head. It's never going to be safe.
Ray Tuzzi's excitement to start his boxing career makes me wonder when it's over if all the punches and knockouts will be worth it.
Push, 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 push. If you could do it all over again, would you box?
No. Hell no. I would not put the gloves on. I watch baseball players and I'm saying to myself, if you condition yourself when you train hard, making big money, why box? Who's punching in your face? No one's punching you. No one's not punching in your face.
Nick Purdon, CBC News, Toronto.
So all of this has resulted in renewed calls to ban boxing outright, especially from those in the medical community who for decades have said that it's just too dangerous. And some countries have banned professional boxing only to reallow it later with strict guidelines. Norway's 1982 ban was overturned just 4 years ago under the condition fighters get more thorough medical checkups. Sweden banned pro boxing in 1970 but reallowed it in 2007, provided fights be only 4 rounds to reduce the risk of serious injury. So the Swedes have shorter fights. As you heard in Nick's story, some trainers think that's a pretty good idea. And so does one of the ring doctors at that Stevenson fight.
For a championship matchup, we went from 15 to 12. What about going down to 10? If the doctor in charge could stop the fight, usually it has to go through the referee before. But I wonder if it's possible for the doctor to call an end to a fight if he assesses that one guy is in trouble, so to speak.
And Dr. Doré has seen the dangers of the sport. Last year, he was the ring doctor at the bout of Canadian boxer David Whittam, who later died of injuries sustained in the fight.
Here in Vancouver, we're following a developing story. At least 13 people taken to hospital suffering from a single carbon monoxide poisoning incident. It happened at this building, 3 offices inside and the west side of Vancouver, evacuated earlier today. We're told at least 2 of those patients were taken to hospital in critical condition. Staff were allowed back inside a few hours later with the doors left open. The city's going through a cold snap right now, and a doctor at Vancouver General says there have been many other cases of poisoning from faulty heaters. He implored people to get proper carbon monoxide detectors.
Ahead tonight on The National, they used to smoke in school bathrooms. Now teenagers are hooked on vaping. We'll take a closer look at the risks and what's being done to stop them.
And an exclusive look at a view very few have seen. Why scientists are keeping a wary eye on a volcano in BC.
Okay, let's see what we can see. Oh, it just drops away. Oh, this is spectacular. It's not often that you get to see underneath the bottom of a glacier.
Electronic cigarettes were meant to help people quit smoking, but it seems teens are taking up vaping at an alarming rate. And now a new generation is getting hooked on nicotine. Christine Birak looks at an activity that is trending more con than pro.
We all need to come together. This is an issue. Students are vaping in washrooms regularly, and this needs to stop.
They're locking up bathrooms, handing out suspensions, and seizing e-cigarettes, vapes, or Juuls in schools right across the country. Yes, they're illegal for young people, but they're enticed by new ads, cool tricks posted on social media, and the fruity flavored chemicals fueling these devices.
I like pineapple pizza and mango. It's fun. There's not really a lot of harms to it.
What he doesn't know is virtually every e-cigarette contains nicotine, and kids are getting hooked.
I was walking to the bathroom and I saw a guy in front of me throw up all over the walls.
all over the bathroom in general, and he just looked in like a really bad state. And I knew that it was directly related to him vaping.
The kids call it being nicked out, vomiting induced by nicotine poisoning. While it took several decades to bring the teen smoking rate down to just 6%, a recent survey found after just a few years on the market, nearly 15% of high school students in grades 10 to 12 has vaped in the last 30 days, a number that's expected to spike higher. In the U.S., it's upwards of 20%, and experts know why.
One of these pods has as much nicotine in it as a whole pack of cigarettes.
This tobacco researcher says e-cigarettes were solely meant to help smokers quit burning cigarettes. All of these devices heat up a mix of chemicals, including nicotine, to create an aerosol that's inhaled to satisfy their craving. But to date, there's little evidence to show these devices are even working well.
We are seeing some smokers switching to vaping, but by far, most smokers who try vaping don't succeed in quitting, and they either become dual users or they revert to smoking cigarettes exclusively.
And just like cigarettes, the long-term health effects of vaping won't be known for decades. But experts are already warning e-cigarettes can harm a developing brain and lead to breathing problems.
We know that kids who vape have almost twice the amount of chronic cough and wheeze, and a recent study also shows respiratory symptoms amongst adults.
In the U.S., teen vaping rates are being called an epidemic, and these new ads are meant to reach kids.
It can release dangerous chemicals like formaldehyde into your bloodstream.
Health Canada has ordered the vape industry to change flavor names and get rid of words and ads that appeal to youth. The agency acknowledges vaping among teens is escalating, but officials insist they'd like to see if smokers switch to vaping because it may be less harmful.
What we're doing is trying to keep a close eye on what's going on in the marketplace to get a sense of whether we're in the right place on that balance.
An old addiction now repackaged and quietly unleashed on a new generation.
And Christine Birag joins us now. So clearly there are teens who find this appealing, seem to think it's safe. The government obviously watching this happening. What's it doing?
In terms of public education, not really much. We're told a campaign warning teens is coming, maybe sometime this month, but new vaping stats are also coming soon. That stat we showed you, 14.6%, was the latest survey, but it was from last year. That's before vape products were even legalized and heavily marketed. So researchers are now saying there may even be an uptick in youth cigarette smoking, which would be a major fail for vaping, this vaping experiment.
Okay, so there have to be people out there saying this is not good enough.
We are hearing from researchers who are saying that based on the numbers they're seeing, they think Health Canada should ban all advertising of vaping products. If they were only meant for smokers, then why not put inserts in cigarette packages? Have doctors and nurses recommend them to patients who smoke? Why are we putting kids at risk when vaping might leave them struggling with an addiction for decades to come? And Dante, the teen you saw in our piece, said he feels like we're going back in time.
Okay, Christine, thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
Up next on The National, an in-depth look at Belgium's colonial past and the people who say it still haunts that country today.
It's not normal. I work here, I am in my country, I am born in Belgium, and I'm fed up of all this shit, I'm sorry.
This weekend, Belgium reopens its controversial Royal Museum for Central Africa. After a 5-year makeover, the aim was to confront Belgium's colonial past and to veer away from stereotypes about Africans. Now comes word this man, King Philippe, the country's head of state, won't attend the opening ceremony. He wants to avoid the growing debate over artifacts taken from former colonies and whether they should be returned. After all, his ancestor oversaw the plunder of the Belgian Congo and grew rich on slave labor. The king's discomfort is reflected in many of his subjects. Belgium remains a country willfully blind to its own oppressive history. A stubborn racism remains woven into the national fabric. Tonight, the CBC's Margaret Evans talks to Belgians about the human cost of that legacy And in this dispatch from Brussels, she asks, what will it take to finally leave it behind?
What is it to be a good Belgian in 2018? I don't know what it means. Maybe to be white, have blue eyes and blonde hair.
29-year-old Cécile Junga isn't someone easily forgotten. Actress, comedian, broadcaster, she answers to all with ease. And yet when she looks in the mirror, she can still find herself struggling for place in the country of her birth.
I don't know what is it. Me, I really feel Belgian. I'm deeply Belgian. I am supportive of the Red Devils, and I like beers.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous, heureuse d'être en votre...
Junga delivers the weather report for Belgium's public broadcaster RTBF. Born in Brussels to Angolan and Congolese parents, she says she learned to use humor to deflect insults growing up. But the insults have grown along with her public profile. And this summer, something broke.
Woman called to say that I was too dark and she can see me on TV. And I was like, it's crazy. It's like,
at first, she tried to shrug it off, but it was one insult too many.
It's not normal. I work here, I am in my country, I am born in Belgium. I'm fed up of all this shit, I'm sorry.
And so she posted a video online.
Voilà quoi, recevoir des sales négresses dans ton pays, en fait, c'est pas drôle quoi. Donc en fait, moi j'en ai marre.
It was raw and emotional, and it blew the lid off the not-so-quiet racism that has been allowed to fester in Belgium. Matonge, a small neighborhood in the heart of Brussels, named after a district in Kinshasa in the years just before what was then called the Belgian Congo gained its independence in 1960. Immigration from the former colonies, including Rwanda and Burundi, was never encouraged. But the Central African community here numbers well over 100,000 people. Critics say many school children today have no idea Belgium even had a presence in Africa, unless they happen to be fans of the comic book hero Tintin, the boy reporter traveling the globe. And then it's a warped one, penned in the 1930s and reflecting the prejudice of the time.
Tintin, of course, is hugely popular. It remains one of Belgium's best-known exports. There was a move, though, a few years ago to have Tintin au Congo removed from the shelves because of its racist stereotyping. But it's still really easy to pick up pretty much anywhere.
When I was at school, I was never taught about the history of Congo, even though it's so close linked to the Belgian history, and forever will be.
Musician Tanguy Hazavutz goes by the stage name Temitan. He was born in Congo in 1985 and moved with his family to small-town Belgium when he was 6.
And my mom was the only black woman in the neighborhood, so we definitely were the kids from Congo. And then when I went back to Congo, it was the first time, it was in 2013. All of a sudden I realized how I was the Belgian guy and I was the white guy.
He embraces both sides of his heritage. The fact that Belgium itself can't seem to do it troubles him.
I don't know if Belgium is ready to change, but Belgium is facing the deadline is kind of coming.
On the outskirts of Brussels, a monument to a distorted history still stands. The roots of the Royal Museum for Central Africa date back to 1897, a showcase for the Belgian King Leopold II's colonial ambition. There is perhaps no greater symbol of Belgium's failure to address the dark chapters of its past.
We have one gallery, for example, with the names of the 1,600 Belgians that died between 1876 and the early 20th century in the Congo Free State. And there's not a single mention about the many Congolese victims of colonization.
Director Guido Grisels is the man promising to deliver a more honest narrative when the museum reopens its doors after a 5-year renovation.
It was not a story of bringing civilization, that it was not a story of eliminating the slave trade, that it was a story of brutal capitalism, looking for resources and looking for profits.
The spoils of that plunder can still be seen in grand brushstrokes across Brussels. Towering edifices showing off Leopold's wealth, paid for with the blood of his colonial subjects. Millions of Congolese are believed to have perished when Leopold ran the territory as a private enterprise, slave labor for his agents, rushing to extract ivory and rubber, chopping off limbs if quotas weren't met. That these horrors still feel somehow veiled from ordinary Belgians seems extraordinary. An entire nation succumbing to a kind of collective amnesia.
For most Belgians, their first encounter with Africa is through a visit of our museum. If then in this museum you get the impression that Africans don't have culture of their own, that they're primarily wild people, that the European view is superior to the African view, you can't be surprised that that has an impact on the attitude of those people when then later on in day-to-day life they have to work or meet Africans. So we assume our responsibility there.
Whether to engage with the museum as it tries to reform and rebrand has been a difficult question for many in the Central African community. Campaigner Mireille Cheusi Robert says true contrition for the wrongs of the past would be to return all the cultural artifacts taken out of colonial Africa and now lining the museum's shelves.
Garder ces œuvres, c'est la preuve qu'on les a vaincus. C'est la preuve que la Belgique a vaincu le Congo, le Rwanda et le Burundi. Donc, se débarrasser de cette preuve, c'est se débarrasser du sentiment de supériorité.
Others, including artist Aimé Mpane, believe they must engage. Mpane won a competition to design the new museum's signature art installation. It will serve as a contrast to statues still in place from the old era, portraying colonizers as civilizers. Mpane says he had doubts about taking part.
Depuis quand je me suis dit non, c'est vraiment notre histoire. Il faut essayer de voir quel sens on peut tirer là-dessus. Si on ne met pas toi à place, et qui vont le faire?
And there are signs of change in Belgium, small though they may be. There's a new square dedicated to Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister of an independent Congo, Belgium's role in his assassination finally acknowledged. And there is a new mayor in the Brussels commune of Ganshoren, a man everyone wants to say hello to. Pierre Company was just elected Belgium's first black mayor, better known now perhaps than even his famous soccer-playing son Vincent, a former captain of Belgium's national team.
The first black mayor in Belgium. It's never happened before. It's historical. We're all happy. Yes. Congratulations to my dad.
Company Sr. arrived in Belgium in 1975, a refugee fleeing Congo's post-colonial dictatorship. He prefers not to dwell on divisions, but he does say understanding the past is key to overcoming them.
Dans le cadre de l'histoire, il n'y a pas de compromis, il n'y a que de l'ignorance. Il n'y a pas de compromis, il n'y a que de l'ignorance.
Time, in other words, for the veil to be lifted and for new lines to be drawn in Belgium.
I think we are writing a new page of the Belgium, and it's my generation and the next generation. It's our world to write what is to be Belgium today.
But to untether itself from its past, Belgium must first acknowledge it. and atonement is still a long way off. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Brussels.
Up next on The National, our exclusive look at an eye-popping journey through BC's majestic terrain. You'll travel with volcano watchers as they find signs of a pending disaster.
There's a true value in trying to understand what is happening here, what are the changes, so that people can prepare.
Here are some of the other stories we're following tonight. Reaction to news that the chief financial officer of Chinese tech giant Huawei is being detained in Vancouver. Wan Zhaomeng was taken into custody on Saturday. The Justice Department says she's being sought for extradition by the United States and that a bail hearing is set for Friday. In a statement, Huawei says the company has been provided very little information regarding the charges and is not aware of any wrongdoing by Ms. Meng.
We aren't entirely out of the woods, you could say, at this point. We need the sun to come out and really start burning off some of that frost out there.
And that frost is what Saskatchewan officials say caused a major power outage in the province yesterday. But a utilities expert who spoke to CBC questions that, saying the system should be able to handle frost accumulation. Up to 200,000 customers were affected by the blackout, perhaps Saskatchewan's largest since 1981. After weeks of violent protests and rioting, France is officially abandoning a proposed fuel tax increase. The Prime Minister said no tax is worth putting the unity of the nation at risk. Just yesterday, the government announced it was suspending the increase for 6 months, but that wasn't enough to quell anger in the streets. Trouble is brewing beneath the surface of a BC mountain range. Volcano researchers from Simon Fraser University are keeping an anxious watch, and our journalists are the first to record their work. The scientists argue that climate change is destabilizing volcanoes around the world. In BC, not far from Whistler, Mount Meager shows signs of dangerous things to come. The CBC's Laura Lynch brings us this exclusive look.
This is the British Columbia that's familiar around the world. Stunning peaks, deep valleys, the coastal range that's been labeled supernatural. But there's a lurking threat hiding amongst these mountains and all that ice. We've flown here to Mount Meager, northwest of Whistler, where scientists from Simon Fraser University are on a risky mission to a rumbling giant, a volcano that's cracking apart even as we arrive.
And out of any volcano, the top three gases are, number one, water vapor, then carbon dioxide, and then tiny amounts of hydrogen sulfide.
Volcanologist Glyn Williams-Jones is warning the crew about the poisonous gases spewing from what's called a fumarole. It's just one of the dangers here.
The first time I was here, there was an open crevasse.
Williams-Jones leads us up to the very edge.
Click into any of those three loops.
Our guides help anchor us so we won't slip into the hole where the gas is so concentrated it could kill us. But coming here is the only way to answer the question, when will catastrophe strike?
This big, massive mountain is rotten. It's been growing for 2 million years, and over that time period, we've had all of these gases and acid fluids coming through the rock and slowly but surely changing that into weaker rock.
Mount Meager is also the site of Canada's most recent explosive eruption just over 2,400 years ago. But that is the mere blink of an eye for those who study volcanoes. It was comparable to the 1980 explosion of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. 57 people died when the entire north face of the mountain collapsed, allowing the volcano to explode.
Oh, yeah.
Those images of destruction weigh on the mind of Williams-Jones as he carefully sets up his equipment.
Okay, that's working.
To measure the things he can't see.
That's what I want to hear.
The invisible fumes.
It's getting bigger.
The fumes are bad. They smell like rotten eggs. But a bigger problem for Williams-Jones is how much the fumaroles have grown in the 2 years he's observed them as the glacier retreats. And as the ice shrinks, his concern grows.
because we've taken the top off our pressure cooker. So it's highly theoretical, but it's important. It's not just an esoteric academic exercise. There's a true value in trying to understand what is happening here, what are the changes, so that people can prepare.
There are actually 3 fumaroles here. And as Williams-Jones steps carefully toward another one, an alarm stops us cold.
2 parts of H2S.
The smell of the hydrogen sulfide is not strong at all.
So there's hydrogen sulfide here, but not enough to keep him and his guide from exploring a worrying discovery.
So we are right underneath the glacier now.
They say it's too dangerous for us, so Williams-Jones agrees to wear a camera on his helmet as he peers over the edge.
Okay, let's see what we can see. Oh, it just drops away.
Melting glacier ice has carved out a cave, allowing the scientists to see deeper under the ice than ever before.
Listen to how long it goes.
They use a primitive tool, a rock, to get a sense of the depth.
40 meters maybe. Yeah, no, this is spectacular. It's not often that you get to see underneath the bottom of a glacier.
It's yet another alarming indication of how the mountain is becoming unstable and ever closer to crashing down. And that's where Gio Roberti comes in. The PhD student is hiking the steep slopes, looking for trouble.
Using different type of remote and field-based technique, we were able to map numerous landslides. And one of the most concerning is right there.
Roberti is pointing to a crack in this massive rock face. It's moving and deepening by centimeters each month.
It's very likely that this slope will fail very soon, generating a very big event.
The event, as he calls it, could be devastating. And Roberti doesn't even have to imagine the impact of a landslide. All he has to do is look back at what happened on this same mountain 8 years ago. It was the biggest landslide in Canadian history. The debris traveled 13 kilometers, destroying bridges, roads, and equipment. Seismic waves were felt as far away as Washington State and Alaska.
In this alpine setting here now, things are changing way faster.
This slide will happen, Roberti says, and soon, and it will be much bigger.
So if the 2010 landslide traveled about 13 kilometers, this one is about 10 times bigger, and this one could travel 20, 30 kilometers and eventually impact populated area downstream.
The scientists here agree the risk to human life is unacceptable. They want permanent monitoring equipment placed here to warn of earth tremors, landslides, even the remote chance of volcanic activity. Right now, government isn't prepared to pay.
If we had the budgets, we could do orders of magnitude more on this system. And it's both trying to understand the basic fundamental scientific questions, but also trying to understand the hazard implications, actually having active monitoring and an alarm system so that we can respond.
The ghostly churn of gas and steam will continue, as will the slow disappearance of the glacier. As the team departs with fresh data to study, the worries remain. Laura Lynch, CBC News, Mount Meager, British Columbia.
There are 5 potentially active volcanic areas in Canada, all of them in British Columbia and Yukon. The best known, along with Mount Meager, are Mount Garibaldi and Mount Cayley. All are located in southwest British Columbia.
Next on The National, it all started with a letter sent by fax from a Canadian to the late U.S. President George H.W. Bush, an unlikely friendship born out of a love of fishing. That is our moment of the day.
It actually became a little important part of our Christmas tradition to get the president a gift, a fishing gift. I sent him fish socks once that he quite liked.
It is hard to remove the politics from the legacy of President George H.W. Bush, something even his funeral couldn't avoid, as we saw earlier in the program. But for one Canadian, the political wasn't the point, because he and the 41st U.S. president had formed an unlikely friendship. For Arthur Milne, it all started back in 1997 when he worked as the editor of a small town paper in the Northwest Territories. That's when he learned that the former U.S. president had made a recent fishing trip to Canada's north. So he did what perhaps few would do. He sent George Bush a fax, asked him to write a fishing column. The rest is history and our moment.
I'm in Fort Simpson, 1,500 kilometers north of Edmonton, and I have a thing from a president of the United States in my hand, so I hadn't even read it hardly, and I phoned the number on the fax. The phone was answered, and the voice said, Bush residence. And I stammered out, I said, hi, I'm Arthur Milne. And then the voice said, oh, the Canadian editor. I'll put you right through to the president. And President Bush came on, and he got right down to business, and he said, Arthur, I've sent you the column you've wanted, and do you think it's okay? Starting that Christmas, I would send him a fishing lure, and every Christmas, and I would tell him my fishing exploits that year. It actually became a little important part of our Christmas tradition. It demonstrated to me, even the most powerful people are people first.
You know, Adrian, part of what's so charming about this is the window into their personalities. What a fantastic guy Arthur seems to be. And you think about presidents, how carefully crafted their public personas are, and yet here's a little window into what a decent man President Bush was in private.
And what a window into what a good journalist is. Circulation 900, he took the chance to approach a president who said yes, so you never know. But also, they communicated for 20 years. They met 3 times. The last communication was Arthur asking him for another column, which he delivered. That is a national for December 5th. Good night.
Good night.